What's up, guys? I'm back, and today I'm gonna talk about what can DMR do to right the ship and hopefully eventually give us what we want as fans, as consumers. And before I go there, I do want to mention a couple of quick things about the review that I did. There were two quick things I forgot to mention, and I just want to get that out because they were kind of important. And I just had so much that I covered, and I just I was bound to forget something. One thing is that they need to bring back that rewind feature that Utechnics had. Okay, that was one thing that they had that was actually a helpful thing and beneficial to the game. And those of you who are frustrated with the game as it is now, a lot of you are frustrated because you have to keep restarting the game, and because something happened and the caution system is not working properly, so no caution comes out, and out of frustration you just restart the game. That's frustrating, and eventually you can do that so many times before you give up. So the rewind feature would really help, and they need to bring that back. It's a simple thing, and I think it's good, especially if you race long races like I like to do. If you're doing a quick sprint, then it's not going to matter. But some people really like to get into the game and race long races, and it sucks if you get spun out or wrecked and no caution comes out and you go down 2 laps or whatever the case is, and you're still trying. It's fucked up. You need a rewind. You got to implement that into the game. That's not going to happen now, but I'm talking about for the future. That's one thing. And the other thing, when I was talking about the way about DMR and the way they're doing business and the decisions they're making, that in conjunction with how small this game is, how lacking in content, there is something I wanted to mention. I don't know how I forgot it because it's a huge, it's a big deal, and it's speculative on my part, but still, a lot of the things I've said in the past have come to fruition. So even people who have told me, "Oh, all you do is bash," or "It's negative," and this and that, but everything I said, it comes out the way I said it. So I'm using logic when I'm thinking and talking about stuff, and doesn't mean that everything I say happens, but I've said some things that have it's worked out exactly like I said. I said this game was going to be unfinished and all that stuff, but there's something else I talked about, and I think one of the first videos I did concerning DMR and their announcement when they came out as a company and they said we're going to develop a NASCAR game. I talked about how they also mentioned they want to do mobile games, and I had a negative feel about it, and I made it clear. I said I didn't feel good about that, and the reason is I don't like the idea that these guys are trying to do so many things at once. And it's the same philosophy behind me, what I also said about the way they were, are you going to try to lean towards being a simulator or arcade? And they're trying to do both. And I've always said it, when you try to appease two fan bases or two completely different groups of consumers, you're not going to appeal to either one because you're not going to nail either one, right? So if you want to be an arcade racer, then be an arcade racer. Embrace it. But they didn't do that because there's no presentation. There's nothing in this game. It's just bare bones. And if you're trying to somewhat do a little bit of a simulation, but yet you fucked that up too. So what I always said was, if you try to appeal to both, you're not going to hit either market. And that's what happened. Also, this idea that they want to also do mobile games and stuff. The reason that I'm not crazy about that idea is because I felt, hey, you're not a huge company. You're a small company. That's what, all the people that defend them or defend these developers, they like to do. They did it with Technics. I would always hear, when I criticize them, oh, they're just a small company. It's just their first game. They'll get it right the next time. I had all these arguments. I've been through this. I've been down this road before. And as you could see, I look back at history, I was right. I was right about Technics, and I was right about a lot of the things about this game. And the thing I want to talk about as far as the mobile gaming aspect, I believe, and this is speculation, I might be wrong, and some of you guys are more technically savvy than I am. I don't know what goes into porting like a game to a different system, but I believe that they developed this game with the full intention of porting this game direct to mobile, like to tablets and stuff, whatever the case is. Look at the game. Look at how bare bones it is, how lacking in content. It's 8 gigabytes. That's a mobile game. If anything screams mobile game, that's it right there. It's a bare bones, stripped down, simple game. And I could totally see this ending up on a tablet or somebody's phone. And I think that they had the entire time they had that in mind. We want to do mobile gaming as well, so you're not a big company. You can't do 2 completely different builds of a game if you're a small company. Really big companies could do that. And I think that all along they had that in mind, and I think what we paid $60 for is a mobile game. So that explains a lot of why this game is so small and stripped down and bare bones. I'm not going to get any deeper into it. That's speculative on my part. And normally I wouldn't have even made that accusation. Because like I said from the beginning, I believe these guys have good intentions. I believe that they care. But now, after seeing the business side of how they handled things and how they, as I talked about in the review, the decisions they made, now I can't really give them the benefit of the doubt. Now I have to believe that, hey, as a company, you're willing to do that. You're willing to put out a game that's more designed to be for mobile gaming on consoles and PC and just charge people for it and hope nobody realizes. That's just a thought, and it would explain. I mean, these guys, a year and a half, and this is a year and a half of development that went into this game, and this is what we got. That explains a lot, and it would make sense to me that they had intentionally built this game bare bones and simple because they want to port it right away to a mobile gaming. Now, as I said, I'm not the most technically savvy person. I don't know all the ins and outs of how to make that stuff happen, or if they can even do that. I know that you can port console games to PC, stuff like that, but I don't know. Maybe you guys know, and maybe you could enlighten me on that. But I wanted to get that off my chest. Excuse me. I forgot to mention that in my review, but as you saw, I covered a lot of stuff in that review. I hope you guys got something out of it. So that being said, I wanted to get that out the way. That was something important that I felt I wanted to throw out there. And that's just something that I believe. And I could be wrong, but, it is what it is. I want to move on from that. And I said I was going to do a suggestion video to DMR and make suggestions on ideas and what I think that they should do for the future of this franchise. There's a part of me, I have to be honest, that I'm so dejected about the way DMR did business. I think I'm more upset with the way the decisions they made rather than the problems with the game. A lot of these issues in the game can be fixed. Now, I'm not a firm believer that patches can do a lot. Patches are meant to do things, small things, like That's why it's called a patch. It's not called a rebuild. And a lot of the parts of this game need complete overhaul. But there are things that could be patched. The caution system, a lot of the issues online. So they can do things to patch and get this game more playable, and at least you can get a little more enjoyment out of it. I do want to know if anybody has taken my suggestion on trying this game in arcade and bump up that AI difficulty, put some time into it, and try to experience it the way that I talked about in the review. Did you try it? And did you find enjoyment at that point in at least that aspect of the game? I'm curious to know. If you did, great. If not, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. It is what it is. And lastly, before I get into the suggestion part of this video, I also want to know how many of you guys actually bought DLC. My hope is that most of you did not do it. I didn't do it. I don't believe in it. I'm not 100% against DLC. The concept of DLC, there's two different types of DLC. There's DLC that actually adds to an already good product, right? So I bring up games like Grand Theft Auto, things like that, because these for me are the pinnacle of gaming. They provide so much content and they give you so much for your money that when they actually finally come out with some DLC that they ask you to pay for, I'm the first to buy, because that's my way of telling the developer, I appreciate the product you sold me. I got my money's worth. I'm happy with it. So when you put DLC out, I trust you that it's going to add to my gaming experience. Plus, it's a way, I guess you could call it a tip, but it's a way of tipping the developer and saying, hey man, you did a kick-ass job making this product, and you know what, you put some DLC out, I'll buy it. So it's a way, it can be a good thing. I'm not against DLC, outright. But what I hate is DLC that's sold to you that are things that should have been part of the original game. And if the original game is already a disappointment, if it's lacking content, if the game is just horrible, don't turn around and try to sell me skins. Paint schemes are fucking skins. That's all they are. Yeah, you might have put some time rendering this stuff, but you know what? You didn't give you put out a shitty product or something that is lacking in content. How dare you charge people money? Now I'm telling people, I don't like telling people what to do with their money. I try not to do that. But if there's ever a time you could send a message to a developer or a publisher, this is it. Don't buy any of it. It's not going to improve the game at all. You can live without it. And it's a way to tell them, hey, nobody's buying this fucking DLC. And they have to look at it. They have to wonder why. And it's going to force them to do something. But if you go out and you give them money for DLC, these guys, they're not going to change. They're a business. Their number one priority is making money. But there are other ways to make money. I'm not against that. I realize they're here to make money. But you're here to make money, but you got to earn it. You can't just squeeze people for money and rip people off. This DLC is a rip-off. The way they released this game and the way they released it, it's a demo, and they charge $60 for it. That's a rip-off. So the only way we can send a message is to refuse to buy the DLC. Don't buy it. Okay? If we're ever going to force these guys to invest more into making a better product to earn your money, you're not going to do it by giving them more money for DLC. Especially stuff that isn't going to really do anything to improve the overall game. I'm all for that, and I'm curious to know who bought DLC and who agrees with me. Let's not do it. Now to the meat of the video. I'm going to bring up some suggestions of what I truly believe will elevate this franchise and will help DMR get them out of the mess they're in. They're in a mess, make no mistake about it. This is their first official release as a company, and it's not being received well, and they deserve the negative reviews. But it's bad. If this is how you came out the box as a new company, they're in serious trouble. Make no mistake about it. But I'm here to help DMR, and from this point on in the video, we're gonna play a quick game of pretend. I just got a phone call from DMR, and they've let's say it's Ed Martin, or one of the top guys, right? One of the actual owners of the company. Listen, we've seen some of your videos and your reviews and stuff like that. You know, you seem to be really into this stuff, and you care about NASCAR games, and we're kind of in a bind as a company. The game's not doing well. It's not well received. We want to know where we fucked up. We want to know what can we do. We want your point of view as an outsider, as a fan, as a consumer, right? Because these people are all thinking as a company, and sometimes they're locked in a box on how can I make money, you know, and they're not looking at it from a perspective of the fan base, the people who are actually buying these games and supporting your products. So I get a call from Ed Martin, and he tells me, listen, would you be interested in taking on a position as an official consultant? Okay? And I will say, yes, I'm interested. What are we talking about? Okay, as a consultant, we want you to, one, tell us where we went wrong, tell us what we need to do, okay, as a company, and as on the more or less on the development side of things. I'm not a businessman, and I can't really tell you how to run a business, but there are certain things that stick out that, to me, are huge red flags, and you don't have to be a professional economist or businessman to know. Like I said, the way that they released the game in this state and charge $60 for it and then charge for DLC, that's not a good business move. I don't have to have a degree in business to know that. As a consumer, I know I'm offended, insulted as a consumer that you would do that. This is stuff that should have been in the game, and you want to charge me extra for it, and there's no content in the game. It's 8 gigabytes. It's a demo. You sold me a demo. As a consumer, that's how I feel. So, as a business person, you have to take that criticism and say, what can I do to get out of this mess and turn things around before there's a point of no return. If you really destroy your name as a company, then there's no getting out of it. No one's going to trust you. No one's going to support you. Just like Eutechnics, they're a terrible company. So anything they do in the future, nobody's going to support it. I mean, you're really going to have to put something out there that's amazing and then hope that there's just word of mouth, just a buzz catches and people find out just from talking to each other, hey, this game is pretty good, try it. And that's not the way to get out of things. You need marketing, you need, like this game was released, and yeah, it's not the biggest market in the world, but people were looking forward to it. You're the only one making this game, so the eyes are on you. And you made some bad decisions, and now people are not looking at DMR as a reputable company. Okay, I'm just telling you, the average person is not doing that. Okay, I've lost faith. So, as a consultant, I'm going to tell you what you need to do from this point forward. Forget about, this game is built. Whatever it is, it's built. So, people expecting wholesale changes, it's not going to happen. What they need to focus on fixing the bugs, the glitches, the things that are already in the game but don't work right. Cautions and everything else. We've already discussed it. I'm not going to get into it. But the things that need fixing that are already existing in the game, work on patching that stuff, fixing that stuff, and do the best you can to at least get this game to a state where people can play it and enjoy it somewhat. Now, moving on to the next phase, which is the next game. At some point, you're going to have to start development of the next game. All is not lost. Okay, so I'm here to tell you it's not all lost. There are some good things about this game, and as I said before, the frame of this game, I think, is not bad. The framework, okay, the blueprint, the foundation, okay. Graphics wise, I don't think it's the worst looking game. I don't. Some people are really down on it, but I'm here to tell you that even though it's not, is it next gen? Is it mind blowing? No, but it's acceptable. Okay, it's not that bad. There are issues though with frame rate, aliasing, popping. Those things can be fixed. Now for the next game, you take this, okay, and there are things you can do on a technical level to improve the graphics that are already existing. Okay, companies remaster games all the time, and what they do, the first thing they do with a remaster is they take a game that already exists. They don't rebuild it; it's a remaster. So they take the original game, and graphically they make alterations. They they do things with the shading, the lighting, the contrast. There is something called high dynamic range, okay, which is a way to enhance the bright parts of an image and enhance the dark parts of an image, and give you a wider spectrum of colors, a bigger spectrum of darkest to lightest sections of an image. And believe me when I tell you, it's not a trick. It really improves picture quality more than resolution does. So those of you who are into 4K technology, you already know what HDR is. The new PS4 Pro coming out is going to be HDR ready. They're gonna make the current PS4 HDR capable. So there are things you can do for the future to take what's currently there that you already built and enhance the images. And as you've seen, some games have done a fantastic job of remastering games. Like Grand Theft Auto did it when they remastered it for the next gen. The Last of Us, they took a PS3 game and they remastered it, and it looks a lot better. It's dramatically better. So using all these techniques, you can take the graphics of this game and really elevate it and fix those other issues I talked about. And you can have a pretty decent looking game the next time around without rebuilding everything. You don't, the whole point is to take what you already built and fix the things that aren't working and then enhance everything. So obviously fix the problems and make the graphical remastering improvements. So now I'm going to get into the real way that you're going to elevate this franchise and hopefully salvage the bad name you gave yourself as a company. The biggest issues, as I've said before, are that this game is bare bones. We got to fill it. We got to flesh it out to its full potential, and you do that with presentation and content. And that's what you're going to be focused on. The good news is, like I said, the game is already built. The tracks are built. So the foundation's there. There's no excuse. You're not building it from the ground up. Now you can focus on filling everything in and fleshing everything out. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do, you're going to give us a fucking paint booth. Not a shitty paint booth. You're going to give us a full paint booth. You're going to be able to create just about anything that you could imagine. Okay? In addition to paint booth, I want the ability to customize the fire suits. So when you make a custom paint scheme, I want to be able to make the fire suit, that it goes with the type of look I'm going for with the car. Okay? So being able to customize your own fire suit, I think that'll be awesome. I think people will get a kick out of it, especially those of us who enjoy paint booths. The player customization, that needs an upgrade. Seriously, the way you did it in this game is not good. It doesn't look good. There's very limited. You end up only being able to create certain characters. But I'm going to take it a step further. Get face scanning in this game. Those of you who play NBA 2K and now NBA Live on the EA side, you know what face scanning is, and it's amazing. You can scan your actual face into the game. So the character you create is you. That's fucking awesome. Could you imagine that? You customize your own fire suit, you create your own car, and you can scan your own face into the game. It's not revolutionary. It was when 2K started doing it a couple of years ago, but guess what? Now EA's doing it as well. So the technology's there. It can be done, and you gotta get a can-do attitude as a company. No excuses. Give us face scanning tech, customizable fire suits, paint booth on that end. Now you also got to have an interactive menu, okay? Not just this plain Jane menus that you have now. You got to give players the ability to interact with cutscenes, certain things that happen throughout the story mode and the career mode, I should say. Things that we've seen in other games, especially the NBA 2K series, interviews, commercials, commercial endorsements. You can design your own sneakers when you sign on with a company. There's commercials where you're actually part of the commercial. There's interviews. Give us post race interviews in the pits. Okay, if you had contact with another car during the race, I want that driver to come while you're giving the interview and have them give you a shove, and then have people come in like they do, and then all the crews come and they separate you so you don't actually have to fight. Throw that stuff in there. That stuff, it helps with the immersion. It helps flesh the game out. You don't know what you're going to see after a race, I should say. And that's what I want. Give people a sense of accomplishment. If you get a top 5, that should, in the post-race interview, they should talk about that. Hey, man, you had a top 5. You finished 4th. Now this is where you are in the standings, and this is where you are in the chase standings, and you're so many points out. You're gonna have to do this, or you need a win. These are things that would add so much to the game. It would totally change this game, and you'd be surprised how much presentation could just take a game and elevate it. I want pre-race commentary, post-race commentary. I want, after you do that scene, that quick little cut scene, the only presentation that's in this game, which is you show the track, you talk about that race, and then you see the cars parked on pit road. I want you to go beyond that. I want, during the warm-up lap, just before you start the race, and you're doing your warm-up lap, go down the field. Go to each row. Say starting in row 6, on the outside is number 42. And then on the inside, they could talk about you, not by name, but your car number, whatever your number 28. The number 28's on the inside of row 9, and he's 30th in the standings, so he needs a good finish to move up. Things like that. So pre-race, post-race. Okay, I want presentation. I want cutscenes, and I want it to be interactive as far as like interviews after the race, where you actually you could pick certain answers, and depending on the answer you give, it affects you. It affects your fan base. It affects you by way of sponsorship. If you want to be an asshole and give fucked up answers, okay, but then, it affects your fan base. It might gain you fans on another end, and the sponsors may not like what you had to say, and maybe they'll threaten to drop you. And then, but then by the same token, you get other sponsors who come on board, and they're like, hey, we like what where you're headed, and we think you could represent us. Moving on from that, definitely victory lane celebration. I want to see champagne I want to see confetti. I want to see burnout. I want to see your crew celebrating with you, and then have an interview. Uh, I want to see, and then let me see, where was I going? Statistics. You better put statistics in this game. I want a full, robust, fully well thought out compilation of your statistics for your career, for year by year. Okay, you want to know that last year you actually had a fucking career. You can go back, you can see how many wins, how many top fives, top tens, DNFs. Okay, laps led, total laps run. Okay, uh, best lap speeds at certain tracks. Okay, give me a trophy room. Every race I win, I want a trophy room. Okay, with all the trophies I've won. You could make that trophy room part of the garage, the shop. Okay. Um, the other thing, yeah, practice. How can you make practice more interesting and actually something you want to do? There's an issue I had with this current game. The setups, you have to be an engineer to really know how to set up a car. And this is a problem I've always had with NASCAR games. You haven't done enough to give us a tutorial, or at least my idea for this game. I want an interactive crew chief that you interact with. He talks to you, and in practice, you actually they give you a certain amount of complaints that you could pick from. You could say cars loose on entry, tight on exit, loose on exit, tight on entry, tight in the middle, loose. Give us certain things we could pick from, right? So you go out, you do a couple of laps in practice, and then you come into the pits. Even drive back to the garage. Wouldn't that be cool? You know what? I know I'm putting a lot of stuff in there, but there's nothing I'm telling you that can't be done. You go back to the garage, and now you're talking to the crew chief again. He's talking to you, and then you tell him what you pick from those complaints, and then he talks to you, and he tells you what he's going to do to the car. Okay? I play this game because I want to be a NASCAR driver, not a NASCAR engineer, not a crew chief. So you could still have the option to do everything yourself. Nobody's going to force you to use the interactive automatic crew chief. This is an option. But I consider myself a hardcore NASCAR fan, but even I don't understand how to alter the handling and the characteristics of a race car using shocks, springs, transferring weight. All that stuff is above my head. And I've been playing these games for years, and I think I speak for the majority of people. Not very few people actually know how to set up a race car properly, and it takes. Could you imagine? You could spend a day just in practice, and you won't find a good setup because everything's hit and miss. You're just really throwing darts at a board, hoping you nail something. I'd rather have the AI be my crew chief, and then I just give them complaints. And then you could say, well, you can also pick the car. We just don't have speed, but the car feels okay. Then he might say, well, you know what? Let's try certain things where we'll get more speed out of the car, but it's going to change the hand. Whatever it is, it's interactive. It would make practice almost as interesting as the actual race. Okay, and you're involved. It's fleshed out. It's presentation, and you feel like that's a career mode. So, give me an interactive crew chief. I want to see my face scanned driver, and doing more than just leaning up against the car. Okay, so I think these are things that would add so much. I'm telling you, you could focus most of the development of the next game on presentation and these ideas that I'm talking about. I also want, give me a Hall of Fame. When you decide to end your career, if you met certain parameters, let's say you won 50 races in your career, or whatever amount you think is necessary, and then you decide, okay, I'm going to start a new career. Now you retired the old career. Give us a Hall of Fame. Induction to the Hall of Fame. You see these things in other games. NBA 2K, just go on YouTube. I want you to see career mode of these other games. So this stuff's in all of these games. I don't think I've said any. The only thing I've said that would be new and hasn't been done before would be this interactive crew chief, where he kind of changes the setup for you, but he can tell you what he's doing to the car, so you actually learn. So it's actually a tutorial as well. I think that would be something that would elevate this NASCAR games to a whole other level. So that's the only thing that I brought up that's actually innovative. Everything else I mentioned has been done for years. Okay? So it can be done. There's no excuse not to do it. And I'm going to repeat, you better give us fucking stats. Give us and these menus. Fix them up. This isn't good enough, and you got to step up your game. And I'm telling you, I think you have one chance. If you don't implement these things in the next game, I'm fucking done. Okay? And you're a new company. If anyone needs to put their all into it, it's you. So you can actually, this company could sink before it ever really gets off and running. You came out to a terrible start, so those are my suggestions for the next game. And the more stuff you could cram in as far as content and presentation, the better. So I think I hit all of my points. Also, you got to make sure you put chat in the online multiplayer. It sucks. You can't talk to anybody the way it is now, whatever. So I'm also interested in knowing, before I end this video, how many of you have tried my suggestion as, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. I lost my train of thought, but how many of you actually tried to play this game the way I suggested, on arcade, and put the time in to get that AI difficulty up, and how many of you have tried it, and did you notice a difference? I'm going to end the video now. It's another long video, but hopefully it's not too long for you guys. What do you think of my ideas? And also, I would appreciate it if it's possible, anybody out there, if you could send this to DMR via Twitter or Facebook. I don't do any of that stuff. This is the only place I'm at. And so maybe, I know the chances are slim, but who knows? You never know. Somebody there may see this and say, these are good ideas. You know what? Maybe this will help us. But I'm seriously telling you, DMR, you're in trouble. Most people are very angry, and rightfully so. And it's not too late for you to make things right. Again, I don't expect a miracle, wave a magic wand and make this current game something it's not. You made your bed and now you got to lie in it. But you could still fix the issues that are in the game and start working on that next game. The foundation of this game, I think, is perfectly fine, but it needs work, and you gotta flesh this game out. You gotta cram it with content and presentation. That's gonna make the difference. I want to see all these things that I mentioned, and if I don't see them in the next game, I'm done. It's been 15 years since the last NASCAR Heat, and that was a decent game. And I think people assume that the same people that were working on that game are working on this game. And I told you guys in one of my earlier videos, you can't make that assumption. That game was developed in 2001. It was released in 2002. So we're talking about 15 years ago. You really think that those guys are still working for the same company, still developing games? I don't think so. These guys usually move on to other things. So, again, that's speculation on my part. But I don't see a lot in this game that reminds me of the original NASCAR Heat, as far as saying, hey, yeah, these guys were competent back then, they're competent now. The only thing that is a reminder is the audio clip. Glad I remember that. That's one more thing I'm telling you guys. You better hire someone, an audio specialist, who can go and have Brad Keselowski, who likes to talk good things about this game, and he's full of shit. Make him take you around in his car and have this audio specialist record actual sounds of the engine, the car, the exhaust. I'm sick and tired of these shitty sounding NASCAR games. The sound is extremely important, and it can make or break the immersion aspect of the game, and it just sounds awful. Give me some realistic sounding cars. I want this game to sound like the real thing. How can it be so hard? It's 2016. Hire an audio specialist. I don't care what it costs. Send them out, talk to NASCAR, and have Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano and these other guys who were touting the game, have them take them around in the car and let them record audio. I'm sick and tired of how awful these games sound. So fix that too. So I hope somebody somewhere gets this message, and who knows, if I really believe if they double down their efforts and they focus on doing this, implementing this stuff for the next game, and fix the issues with this current game, I think you can have the best NASCAR game ever made. Honestly, I'm not lying. But you gotta focus on the presentation. That's everything. You know, the other things in this game can be fixed, and if you can fix those things, the racing's gonna be fun. I'm telling you, there are aspects of this game that, as far as just the racing, that I'm enjoying. So it's not all lost. You can right the ship before it's too late. So what do you guys think? And I look forward to your comments.